Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about brushes and how to use brushes and find brushes in Photoshop Elements. And this is kind of an introductory to brushes too, so this is a good place to start if you haven't been using brushes and want to learn more about brushes. So over here on our draw panel, we have the one that looks like a paintbrush. And down below we have these different options, like the color replacement tool, the impressionist brush tool. We're just going to go with the straight brush tool for today. And then there's brush mode. Here we have size. So here you can choose from the different brushes. And these are just the default brushes. We'll talk a little more about the others, but right now I have a standard round brush chosen at 9 pixels and the opacity at 100. So those are the different things that we can change. We have it at normal mode. Brush settings. Here we can do different things, and I'll show a little bit more of that in just 1 second. So these are the different options available with the brush menu. Now with 9, and one thing you always want to do, if you notice I've got my paper open, but you don't want to draw straight on the paper because then it's stuck there, and the only way to get it off is to do edit undo. But if you do a few places, like, it could just be disastrous. So always remember to come and click new layer. That way you're working on a fresh layer with whatever it is that you do. So with this you can just kind of draw, and I'm not super skilled with using a mouse to draw, but if you've got a pen tool, or maybe you have a more steady hand than I do, depending on what you want to draw. Sometimes I really enjoy having just some little scribbles on my layouts. Maybe little hearts. So again, these aren't super fancy because I'm using a mouse, but you can see how fun they could be. You could use them underneath stuff, and so that's one way that we can use the brushes. So we're just gonna delete that and create a new layer and come back down to our brushes. Now you can make it bigger so that then when you draw it's so thicker. Maybe you want to color it in or have a different effect. Whatever it is, you can make it bigger. You can change the opacity by bringing it down, and then whatever you do, it's just a really low opacity. Now I'm going to show you into brush settings something that's kind of cool. You can do, so we're going to change the opacity again up to here. I'm going to take the size down to about 30. And I'm going to do spacing and scatter. And you can see this picture start to change down here the more that we scatter it. And we got the spacing. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to close that, and I'm actually going to dump this and get a new layer. And now I can do it just by clicking and holding it as I run it down. You could use this. This is great to use like if you have a glitter overlay or any sort of little scattering that you want. And so that brings me to the next point. Once you have this layer, you can use a color, but you can also use our place feature, and you can clip something, Command G, and now you've clipped it. So it's just a really fun, lots of fun different ways that you can do those things with the brush. Okay, so let's talk one more thing about brushes for this intro video. When you click on this brush and you come up to default brushes, we have a whole menu of brushes, assorted brushes, basic brushes. So let's just click on that, and they're very basic circles, and some you have with a bit of where it fades out towards the edges. You can do faux finish brushes. And just make sure our brushes, let's go back down to 0 on that. Okay. And make them bigger. So, you know, a lot of these might not work for what you're wanting, but it's fun to just kind of play around and see what things are available. And as we get into more tutorials with brushes, this is where you'll want to know this is. And so you can change them all out to all sorts. Once I'm going to go back to default. Now, the one last thing that I want to show you is if you click on the eraser, you can also choose which brush to erase with. So maybe you've done this space here, but you want to just kind of delete part of it, and you can change the opacity so it only lightens it. Or you can go all the way up and it completely erases it. So, and again, this applies to all the different types of brushes you can load to erase with. And so we'll get into different tutorials that show how that comes in handy as well. So I just wanted you to be aware of the different things that are available and the different settings that you can try and you can work with as you use brushes for your digital scrapbooking. Thank you for joining me.